Last time we discussed pre-primary education, and today we will be discussing primary education, which is actually the title of this course, Primary Education 1. So we are going to look into the meaning of primary education and its purposes. So, primary education does not really enjoy a uniform definition. I mean, it does not have the same definition all over the world. The definition is dependent on the organization and administration of education in any country. So it means that what we have here as primary education may have a little difference in another country, the way it is done in another country. So every country fashions its primary education according to the needs of the society. That is why there is a difference in what we have here and what another country have. So, but we can say generally primary education can be seen as the foundation of formal educational system. I repeat that primary education can be seen as the foundation of formal educational system. Let's take a look at Wangu. She said that primary education is a unit of schooling commencing between the ages of 4 years and 7 years and concluding between the ages of 11 and 14, depending on the country and its organization for education. Let me explain that very well. It means that in a particular in country A, it might be from children of age 4 to 7, ending to 11. It might be for, that is exactly what we are saying. This country may be age 4 going into primary. Another country may be age 5, age 6. In Nigeria, we have age 6. And by the time you finish 6 years, when you enter in 6 years, of course, by 11, 12 years, you will be out of primary education. So it depends on the particular country. And that is why it does not really enjoy a particular definition. So according to the National Policy on Education in Nigeria here, primary education is given in an institution. That is, primary education is done in an institution for children normally at age 6. Then you have 11 plus. Then 12 years, the child is right to be in secondary school. So, but another person, Badamosi, says that primary education is a bedrock of all other education. It is a bedrock, as in the foundation, because it is the key to the success or failure of the whole education. In all this we have said, it is just telling us that primary education, if you come to the formal education, is just the first. We know we have pre-primary, but we know formal education. Then United Nations Development Program considered investment in primary education as a means to foster gender equality and sustained economic growth and reduce poverty. It's just saying that we should take this seriously, because for a country to actually do well, this is the foundation of it, of inculcating in the child or in the children about gender equality, about development, about growth, about the reducing poverty in the country. It's just that primary education is very necessary and we should take it seriously. So it is actually what UNDP has given us is actually a broader dimension. It is it at the university that one will try to start growing? No. That is why primary education is very important. By the time you are groomed at the primary level, at the secondary, you just build on what you have done in primary and then go further to the tertiary institution. So the realization of this importance, that is because primary education is important, long time ago in the Western region, even before the independence, it was realized that the primary education is very important, and that is why the then Western region had to usher in universal primary education. Universal primary education, that is UPE. This program was made to make primary education free and compulsory. And because it was very good then, as when it started, other regions of the country followed suit. The eastern region followed and the northern region followed. That is, it showed that primary education is very important. And that is why the West started the pace that it must be compulsory and it has to be free so that every child should be there. You will not say that your parents do not have money to take you to school. That is why in Western region, it was made compulsory. And now it's still compulsory. So, but I want us to know that it must be noted, we must note that no matter how important it is, the strength of primary education lies essentially on what is usually termed as basic. That is why today it is called basic education. And what is the meaning of basic education? The foundation. That is why it is presently known as basic education. So no matter the value of it, it is just the basic to lay foundation for secondary and tertiary levels of education. So the sole objectives are to equip young learners, equip the learners, that is the children in primary school. The sole objectives of primary education is to equip the learners with the tools needed to investigate and inquire, to think, to conclude, and understand events around them. What is the meaning of this? We are saying that because primary education is very important, because it is the foundation, the sole objectives of this primary education are just to equip the learners with the tools they need to investigate and inquire, to think and to conclude and understand events around them. By the time they are equipped with these events, I tell you, the subsequent levels of education will not be a problem to them. They will not find the challenge will be, they will overcome the challenge. Even the tutors at that level will not have it, will not see it as a great challenge, because the children at this level have already had good foundation of primary education. They have already had the good foundation of what they need to build secondary and primary, secondary and tertiary. So what are the foundation? What are the functions of primary education? The foundation of primary education. The functions, of primary education. We have two segments. The first segment is specific, while the other one is broad. We are going to start with the specific functions. In the specific functions, we have only two functions there. The first one says to produce well-qualified boys and girls who are academically inclined to be trained in various educational endeavors in future. What am I trying to say? I am trying to say that this place, primary education, is to have trained children who are academically inclined, children that will further their education in those professional courses. As in after secondary, they will be able to go to the university. And the second part of it is that they are to produce, primary education is to produce those children who are not academically inclined. Have you seen? The first one in the specific functions are to produce children who are academically inclined, those who will further their education up to the tertiary institution, while the other ones, they will be literate, as in they will know how to read, they understand. So, but they may not really further their education to the tertiary institution. So these are the two specific functions, and that is why, going by the first one, to produce well qualified boys and girls, BAFs, we have 3 R's. We have 3 R's that were given to us by BAFs Fafunwa long time ago in 1974. He said that primary education in all the states will help the child, among other things, to master 3 things. He said to master 3 R's. Letter R as in run. 3 R's. Number 1, reading. Number 1, writing. Number 1, arithmetic. Remember, we said 3 R's. These R's are not the R as in when you're writing, but in the sound. Reading as in reading now, Obi is a boy, and the writing as in knowing how to write, and the arithmetic. So Bas Fafunwa said, as far back as 1974, that the primary education is to make children master 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And at the level of primary education, a child is expected before primary 6 or before leaving primary 6, a child is expected to know how to read, how to write, and how to solve certain arithmetic. Today we have literacy and numeracy. So, but the other specific function, to produce the other children that may not want to further their education, but they will also be important in our national development. They will only know how to read and write. They will know how to do certain calculations, as Babs Fafunwa told us, reading, writing, and the arithmetic. So these children will be able to be trained in the primary level. Have you seen the two specific functions? Okay, let's quickly go to the primary, because we have a lot of things to say today. Let's quickly go to the primary level. In the primary level, in the broad functions, that is the level of the second one, we have two functions, specific functions, where we saw 2, and the second one now, broad functions. We have really broad functions. The primary education has social, political, cultural, and economic functions. Social, political, cultural, and economic functions. Here I said economic development for both the individuals and the society at large. When primary education produces children at this level, by the time they finish at primary 6, they're expected to know certain things socially. For instance, primary education helps to promote social interaction among them. And where there is social interaction among them, there will be mutual understanding among these children in this level of education. Like I always say, some of us that are teachers, we can see the children, there are certain subjects we teach in civic and in social studies. You see the children trying to interact among them concerning the particular topic taught. So it actually helps them to interact among themselves, and there will be mutual understanding. They will know that they are actually one, despite the tribal differences. So it makes them to be aware of these and be better informed about their environment and the environment distant from them. Therefore, primary education drastically reduces the problem of ignorance and superstition, and this makes the pupils to be more tolerant. They will tolerate one another. You see, that is where the mutual understanding comes in. Number two, in the broad functions, we have political development. The primary education is an influential agent in achieving this. It helps in achieving national unity. It helps in maximizing regional differences, eradicating tribal sentiments, just like we have said in certain topics. Therefore, it gives national feeling for identity, and it also promotes interstate understanding. All right. This level, that's political development, will eventually brings national solidarity, peaceful coexistence, and harmony. When we have this, I tell you, in the nearest future, all these clashes, even Boko Haram of a sort, all those things will no longer be there, because we teachers, we are going to do a lot in making sure that these children, I am telling all of us, because I know most of us are teachers, let us take it as our assignment so that we'll be able to achieve that, not just learning it in the class or learning it in the school just to have a certificate. No, we must learn and also do something concerning it in our society. So the third one is cultural development. With primary education, it is believed that people or learners will be elevated above level of ignorance. There will be consciousness of what has happened before and what is happening now, with the intention of perpetuating the cultural heritage of our people. We have to, in a primary level, we have certain things that we do that promote our culture. That is just what this is trying to tell us about our cultural heritage. And we also have that of economic development. Primary education helps every country in knowing the needs. Every country needs the service of educated ones, so that these children, when they are trained, they will be able to help in tapping the resources of the particular country, in tapping the resources of our country, Nigeria. Nigeria is endowed with natural resources, and for us to train these children to be engineers, to be petroleum engineer, to be this and the other one, it starts from the primary education. We cannot just teach the manpower at the university, at the tertiary level, without first of all building them at the primary. Remember, we have basic science. This will help. By the time they get to secondary SS1 to 3, they will have individual subjects that will teach them chemistry, physics, and so on. So the economic aspect of it is that we have to build our children from that, inculcate so many interests into them, so that by the time they get to the higher levels, they will be able to embrace certain professions that will help our country to tap our natural resources. What are the objectives of primary education? Objectives of primary education, as in the purposes for which primary education is established. The following are the objectives as stated in the National Policy on Education. The objectives of primary education in Nigeria are stated. 1, the inculcation of permanent literacy and numeracy and the ability to communicate effectively. You cannot tell me that a child will be in primary school and after primary school, the child will not be able to communicate. In fact, if any child does that, please take the child away from that school. Secondly, the laying of a sound basis for scientific and reflective thinking. By the time a child finishes the primary education, that child will be able to have a good level of reasoning. C, citizenship education, that is helping us to have effective participation in the contribution to the life of us, as in our lives. Fourthly, character and moral training. Primary education does that. Fifthly, developing in the child the ability to adapt to his changing environment. Yes, by the time the child leaves the home, the child is in the school and the child is being developed. Certain activities now, it's not just to read and write. There are certain activities that are carried out in primary level that helps the child to know that I'm no longer at home, I'm now in the school, so this is what I should do, this is what you know. So the sixth one says, giving the child opportunities for developing manipulative skills. When we talk about manipulative, we talk about psychomotor domain. We have 3 domains. We know the cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor. What can the child do with the hands? That is what Madam Montessori tried to encourage. At this level, these children, don't just give them work to do as in written work. Make sure there are certain courses, there are certain topics that attract manipulative work. Engage them in carrying out certain practicals, what they can do with their hand, even providing certain instructional materials. Engage them in doing that. Make sure that you plan and guide them. That is why they are at school, not just to read and write. And at the end, they won't be able to use their hands to produce anything. And the G part says providing basic tools for further educational achievement. That is, here, primary education, one of the objectives of primary education is to provide, to build these children for further educational achievement. Let us look at the policy guidelines for the implementation of primary education. I know I am faster today. We'll have to recap, but let's be fast enough and finish this. So, the policy guidelines for the implementation of primary education in Nigeria. The federal government specifies the policy guidelines as follows. Number 1, introduction of free and universal primary education. I don't know if anybody can compare the primary education in Western region, let's say in Lagos, and primary education in Imo State. There is a little difference actually. From my own comparison, I have seen that that of Lagos is actually higher, as in the free aspect of it, than any other place in the East especially. But the federal government says introduction of it, let it be free and let it be universal. Number 2 says enriched curricula. Of course, the curriculum is enriched, but in the practical aspect of it, is it enriched? Some schools don't even cover the syllabus. The curriculum planners have already planned, but some teachers, some schools do not cover. Some that even cover don't even, put in the practical aspects. There are certain practical aspects. Let us make it like that so that these children will actually enjoy the experience given to them by the curriculum planners. Number 3, revolutionizing the method of teaching. Remember that there are so many children from different backgrounds in your class. By the time you try this method, it doesn't work, please make sure you change it. Let it follow the trend. Remember, the children in the class, all of them paid, and they came to collect what their parents have paid. So if this particular method does not suit, please change it. If it is the old method, please update yourself so that these children will actually gain what has been planned for them. Number 4 says the use of mother tongue. Yes, sometimes I have to be frank with you. Sometimes there are certain children that do not really understand the explanation of the teacher. Honestly, in that case, if you have to lower yourself a little, especially for that child, you may not do it in the class, but you can do it during the break period. You call that child to yourself and explain to that child, if you have to use the mother tongue, please do, because it is even approved. Do, and let the child get it. That is why the child is in school. Then we have, remember, the mother tongue is not just the tongue of that child, the village of the child. No, it is the language of the immediate community. It may be pidgin, it may be the local language, but make sure the child gets what the child came to school for. Then we have provision of suitable textbooks. We have to provide the necessary things they need in the school. Instruction materials also are there. Number 6 says reduction of teacher pupil ratio to 1:30. That is actually the advantage of private schools. They may not really be up to 30, but the child has it as an advantage. The teacher will give the child the opportunity the child needs to understand. But in public schools, we have up to 30, even more than 30 to a teacher. Then we have public enlightenment and orientation for parents. I told us last time that a parent that enrolled a child in school also enrolled himself. So remember, as a teacher, you are also to tutor both the child and the class and the parents. I don't just mean that the parents will be in the class. One way or the other, we have to lecture the parents. Remember, some of us that are teachers, we have such experience. So we have establishment and management of primary school by voluntary agents. Yes, at one time or the other, we have certain people that may try to. I know one at Tabara. The woman, just established the school just to help certain children to attend the school that may not really, they don't want to go to public schools. They actually want to be in private school, but they don't have the money. This woman established the school, and every year, instead of increasing the school fees, this woman is reducing the school fees. Then number 9 says provision of educational services. There are other educational services. We have the library, health scheme, and stuff like that. Then number 2 says the use of continuous assessment. We know continuous assessment, and some schools even have it in the booklet, but sometimes that continuous assessment, the one we have in the booklet, some teachers do abuse it. But the continuous assessment talked about here is that the teacher will continuously assess the children in the class. Then number 11 says award of primary school leaving certificate. Yes, that's the primaries. At the end of primary 6, the child must have been prepared to sit this particular examination so that the child will get the very first school leaving certificate. And the last one, number 12, says discouragement of dropout. We need to discourage dropouts. That is dropping, not finishing along the line. I know some of us might have seen so many people that dropped along the line. The next one we are going to take now is the problem of primary education. The problems that there are problems that primary education is actually encountering. There is nothing that does not actually encounter problems. But before we go to the problems, let us take our assignment because the time is actually going fast. Let's take the first assignment that says, is only the only one anyway. It says, critically analyze the objectives of primary education. Critically analyze the objectives of primary education to an intending school owner. If your friend wants to be a school owner, you know the objectives of primary education. Please, what will you tell him so that by the time he kicks off, he will be able to, do as stated. So that is the assignment. Remember to forward it to the email amaechig1962@gmail.com. Let me take it again. amaechig1962@gmail.com. So let's quickly look at primary problems confronting primary education in Nigeria. We are going to itemize them quickly. Number one is inadequate staffing. Truly, we have them, especially those that are certified by TRCN to be teachers in this level of education. Not everybody is a teacher. You may have 10 people teaching in a school. Check very well, not all of them are teachers. Some people will say some of them are cheaters, while some are teachers. Once the person is a qualification, that person is not really a teacher. One, because the person has to be, trained on how to teach. You have the methods of teaching. Then at the end, you sit the TRCN examination and you'll be certified. So when you have some teachers teaching, that they are in the class does not mean that they are teachers. That is why we said here, inadequate staffing. Number two, inadequate classroom accommodation. If you check public schools, you will have so many classes, not really, it is not enough for the children. Number three, there is lack of instructional materials. What do you mean by instructional materials? Instructional materials that aid in teaching. It helps the teacher even to talk less. It helps the children to understand very well what the lesson is about. Then number four, inadequate funding. When the government does not really, this actually is the problem we have in public schools. The money needed, either it is not really released on time or it is released but squandered. So we put inadequate funding. Number five says inadequate supervision. Some supervisors will come. They came in the name of supervision, but they will not. Once you just buy them, they will even demand from you that, see, our vehicle is outside. Just give us money for fuel. Let us just go. Just buy them things to eat, refresh them, and give them money. They will go. And have they supervised anything? So in that way, this government has sent them to supervise, and they have come without supervising anything. Then we have lack of in-service training. The teachers don't go for in-service training. By the time they go, it's just once in a while, and they will be chosen. Some of them will be slated to go, not really qualified for that. Some, Okay, number seven, inadequate provision for infrastructural facilities like chairs, table, and so on. Some of our schools are lacking this. Number eight, poor school environment. Our environment is not really good, very bushy. We have objects that can harm the students. Sometimes we do not check, especially in the public schools. But in private schools, they know that the supervisors will come or inspectors will come. They try to make them, except certain private schools that do not really know what it takes to be an educationist. Then we have lack of educational facilities like library and so on. And we have proliferation. No, that is just all. We have about 9 of them. Then let's quickly, the time is no longer a friend. Let's quickly go to curriculum provision for primary education. Curriculum provision. Every level of education has the curriculum planned for it at that level. Even the nursery level that is not in the formal education, it also has. But we are not talking about the foundation of formal education. That is the primary. Right from the time of the missionaries, there is curriculum. Although during that particular time, the curriculum that existed initially was that of the particular missionary. That is, we have CMS, we have Roman Catholic, we have them like that. Each one tried to have its own plan of study, which is curriculum. Do you understand? So that particular time, remember, everyone would like to say, my own is the best, my own was the best. Do you understand? So the curriculum at that time was based on the church that actually brought the Western education. But generally, we know curriculum, a good curriculum to be dynamic, a good curriculum to be flexible and capable of constant evaluation based on the needs, based on the interest, and based on the aspiration of both an individual and the society at last. That is what a good curriculum should cover. It should be dynamic, it should be flexible, because it's supposed to follow the trend of technology. So it's supposed to be dynamic, flexible, and capable of constant evaluation based on the needs of the society and the individual, based on the interests of the society and the individual, and based on the aspiration of both the individual and the society. So the curricula of before had been updated. What am I trying to say? The curricula of before, as in during the missionaries, have had certain revisions, have been updated. So what we actually had then is not what we have now, but that does not mean that it did not start from that particular time. Look at when the missionaries were there, the curriculum actually covered the scripture with English composition, English grammar, arithmetic, geography, music, reading, writing, dictation, and all that for the boys and the girls. But today, is it still the same thing? No. These ones that we have mentioned are there, but it actually goes beyond that. So what we are trying to say is the curriculum has been improved upon. There was improvement on this over a period of time. With the 1969 Curriculum Conference, there was a drastic improvement. Primary school curriculum was based on the needs, the interests, and the aspiration of the people of the country, Nigeria. In addition to this, objectives were set for this level of education, and these were based on identifying our needs of physical, intellectual, then and all that. Time up. Okay, thank you very much. Let me round up. So to accomplish the objectives, government specify the following for the curriculum: numeracy, literacy, study of science, study of social norms, values of the local community through civic and social studies, the giving of the health and physical education, moral and religious education, the encouragement of aesthetic, creative and moral activities. Language is also there, and effective implementation of all this goes a long way to give development to our society. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you.